She was tied in a corn crib for disobeying, until a cowboy freed her and took her home. Leora Vance's ship hummed softly as it drifted above the orange-hued horizon of a small frontier planet. She had been flying alone for weeks, tracing the edges of the mapped galaxy, taking odd jobs for whoever needed them. A freelancer, a wanderer, a person who belonged nowhere and everywhere at once. Leora liked it that way. No attachments, no responsibilities, just space, stars, and the hum of her ship's engines. The planet below was small, almost invisible on any star map, a dusty place where people came only to mine rare minerals or to hide from the authorities. She had no reason to stop, except that her ship needed refueling. The landing strip was rough, made from packed soil, with a few scattered metal huts and a small fuel depot. The locals didn't care much for strangers, and she preferred it that way. Leora's boots crunched against the gravel as she walked toward the fuel depot. A few glances followed her, curious and cautious. Frontier people were always wary of outsiders. They had to be. The fuel depot attendant, a thin man with a sunburned face, gave her a nod but said nothing. Leora was used to silence. She liked it. While the fuel pumped, she checked her ship systems, making sure nothing had gone wrong during the long flight. Everything looked fine. Routine. Predictable, comfortable, but as she was about to leave, a small voice called out. "Excuse me," Leora turned. At the edge of the depot, a little girl stood, gripping a small metal toy that looked like a spaceship. Her hair was messy, and her brown eyes were wide and curious. "Hi," Leora said cautiously. The girl smiled. "Wanna meet my daddy?" Leora froze. She had expected many things on this lonely planet, but this was unexpected. "Your daddy?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes," the girl nodded eagerly. He's stuck. Can you help him?" Leora felt the chill of caution creep up her spine. It was one thing to take odd jobs, to explore abandoned stations, to run cargo or repair satellites. It was another to involve herself in someone else's life, especially a little girl's. "Where is he?" she asked carefully. The girl's face lit up. "He was exploring the outlands. And then he didn't come back. Everyone says he's gone, but I know he's not. I just need someone to find him. Will you?" Leora swallowed. She had learned a long time ago that getting involved was dangerous. And yet, there was something about the girl's determination, something stubborn and hopeful that reminded her of why humans survived in the wild edges of space. She shook her head slightly. "I'm just passing through, kid. I can't." "Please," the girl interrupted, her eyes pleading. "You're brave, you fly alone, you can find him. I just want to see my daddy again." Leora looked down at her. The girl had grit, courage, and faith in someone she barely knew. It was human, so human, and she felt an unexpected pull in her chest. "All right," she said finally with a sigh. "Maybe I can look, but I don't make promises." The girl jumped up and down. "Yes, thank you, you're the best." Leora shook her head, half amused, half wary. "Don't get used to calling me the best, kid. I'm just passing through." As they walked toward the edge of the settlement, the girl, Mila, she introduced herself, told her everything she knew. Her father, Commander Kellen, had gone to explore a region called the Outlands, a place known for strange signals, dangerous wildlife, and abandoned alien stations. People said he had vanished years ago. The locals avoided the Outlands entirely. Leora listened carefully. She had a reputation for daring, for going where others wouldn't. And suddenly, the Outlands seemed like exactly the kind of place she could handle. But she also knew the risks. Many had entered and never returned. "Why do you believe he's alive?" Leora asked, keeping her tone neutral. Mila frowned. "Because he's my daddy. He's always been smart and he would never leave me. I know he's out there, I don't know where." Leora found herself impressed. Most children in the frontier would have accepted the story and moved on. This little girl refused to give up. There was something human in her stubbornness, in her hope, that no alien tech, no predator, no danger could erase. By the time Leora finished refueling, the sun was low in the sky, casting long shadows over the dusty land. She hadn't planned on spending more than a few minutes here, but now she had a choice. She could leave, as she had always done. Or she could follow this small spark of hope into the unknown. "All right," Leora said finally, stepping onto the landing ramp. "I'll take a look, but we need to be careful. The outlands are dangerous. I don't want either of us, especially you, getting hurt." Mila nodded vigorously. "I can help. I know some things. My daddy taught me about space maps and signals," and she trailed off, her enthusiasm endless. Leora studied her, feeling a rare smile tug at her lips. Humans were crazy, brave, reckless, resilient, and somehow irresistible when they refused to accept limits. The first step was always the hardest, but Leora had spent her life drifting through stars, facing dangers that no one else would. And now, with this little girl looking at her with unwavering hope, she felt a strange sense of purpose, something she hadn't felt in years. They spent the night in a small, rented room in the settlement. Mila told stories of her father, of adventures and inventions, of places she had only seen in old recordings and hollows. Leora listened quietly, occasionally asking questions, occasionally noting small details. Every story painted a picture of a man clever enough to survive almost anything, if he was still alive. Early the next morning, Leora prepared her ship for departure. She checked the engines, the navigation systems, and the limited supplies she could carry. She didn't know exactly what they would face in the outlands, but she knew it wouldn't be easy. Mila had packed a small backpack with a few essentials: food, water, a communicator, and something Leora had never seen before, a small drone, no bigger than a bird with blinking lights and tiny sensors. "What's that?" Leora asked, raising an eyebrow. Mila grinned. "It can scan for life signs and signals. My daddy built it before he left. It's really smart. It will help us find him." Leora shook her head, both impressed and amused. Humans always found a way to survive, even in impossible situations. Technology, cleverness, and stubborn hope, that combination was unstoppable. As the ship lifted off, leaving the dusty settlement behind, Leora felt the familiar thrill of space travel. But this time it was different. She wasn't alone in spirit. She had a passenger who believed in hope, in rescue, in daring the impossible. The outlands awaited, filled with mystery, danger, and unknown wonders. And for the first time in a long time, Leora felt a flicker of excitement, not for the job, not for the credits, but for the chance to reunite a little girl with her father. As the planet faded behind them, Leora couldn't help but wonder, maybe humans weren't just survivors. Maybe they were the ones who could make the impossible happen. And with Mila at her side, she was about to prove it. The stars stretched endlessly outside the cockpit, silver lights twinkling in the vast black. Leora Vance sat in the pilot's seat, hands steady on the controls, eyes scanning the navigation screens. Beside her, Mila leaned forward, wide-eyed, watching every movement, her small fingers tapping the drone's interface. The outlands lay ahead, a region marked on no official star charts, a place where signals went dark and travelers disappeared without a trace. Most of the galaxy avoided it, calling it cursed. But Leora had never feared danger. And now, with Mila insisting that her father was alive somewhere in those uncharted regions, fear seemed irrelevant. Mila's tiny voice broke the silence. "Do you think we'll find him soon?" Leora glanced at her. "I don't know, kid. This place is tricky. We'll find him if he's out there, but it might take time." The girl frowned, but she didn't lose hope. She had inherited her father's stubbornness. Leora could see it clearly. The same determination that made humans survive the wildest conditions, the same spark that allowed them to thrive in places where aliens would struggle to adapt. "Can the drone scan for anything dangerous?" Leora asked. Mila nodded eagerly. "Yes. It can detect life signs, energy signals, and even some mechanical things. It's really smart. Daddy helped me program it." Leora raised an eyebrow, impressed. "Your dad must be brilliant." "He is," Mila said with a grin. "He always says humans can do things other species can't." "That we're tricky and clever." Leora smiled faintly. "Clever, yes, tricky sometimes, and stubborn always." Those traits had kept her alive in more situations than she could count. She felt a flicker of respect for the little girl. Humans had a way of surprising even the most experienced among them. The ship hummed as it moved deeper into the outlands. The first few hours were uneventful, the stars stretching into long streaks as the engines pushed them forward. Mila kept busy with the drone, launching it from a small docking port. It flitted through the cabin, scanning sensors and sending data back to her tablet. Mila muttered, studying the readings. "Nothing unusual here yet, but wait there. Something moving in the shadows." Leora leaned over to see the display. A faint signal had appeared, pulsing slowly in the distance. It was not life as she knew it, but energy signatures that suggested machinery or structures. "Could be a ruin," she said quietly, "or a trap." Mila's eyes widened. "Maybe it's him." "Maybe it's Daddy." Leora kept her face neutral. Hope was dangerous. It could cloud judgment, make people reckless. But she didn't crush it either. It was a tool, a fuel to keep humans moving forward when the odds were against them. The signal led them to a planet smaller than the one they had left, a rocky world covered in jagged mountains and dark craters. Atmospheric readings were thin, but enough to allow the ship to land with care. Leora guided the vessel to a small plateau, choosing a spot that offered a clear view of the surrounding area. As the engines powered down, the silence was almost deafening. Leora grabbed her pack, checking supplies, energy rations, tools, a small weapon she preferred for safety. She didn't like violence, but she respected it as a necessary precaution. Mila bounced in place beside her. "We can do this, right? We'll find him." "We'll try," Leora said. "But stay close. Out here, one wrong step and we might never get back." The girl nodded solemnly, her small hand gripping the drone controller tightly. Together, they left the ship and stepped onto the rocky terrain. The wind whipped around them, cold and sharp, carrying a faint metallic scent. Leora noted it. Metallic scent often meant abandoned machinery, or worse, automated defenses left behind by long-gone civilizations. They moved carefully, Mila's drone hovering above, scanning, sending back real-time images of the terrain. Leora followed the data closely, noting patterns and shadows. Every so often she paused, adjusting her path to avoid jagged rocks or sudden drops. Hours passed. The rocky world stretched endlessly, strange formations rising from the ground like ancient teeth. But then the drone's sensors picked up something that made both of them pause. "Multiple life signs," Mila whispered. "Far away but alive," Leora frowned. The signals were small, weak but steady. They moved slowly as if confined. She recognized the pattern of someone trapped, struggling against restrictions. Her heart tightened. If it was who she hoped it was, they didn't have much time. "Lead the way," she said, trying to keep her voice calm. Humans had a way of sensing fear. They needed courage, not panic. The trek to the source of the signals was treacherous. Rocks shifted underfoot, and every shadow seemed to move, creating illusions of monsters that didn't exist. But Leora and Mila pressed on, guided by the drone's readings. As they reached a canyon that stretched deep into the planet, the life signals became clearer. And then just beyond a ridge they saw it, a structure unlike any human building with smooth metallic walls and glowing panels. The light pulsed in rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. "That's where he is," Mila said, her voice shaking with excitement. Leora studied the structure. It was a containment field, clearly alien in origin, with energy barriers shimmering across the entrance. She had seen similar technology in abandoned space stations, but nothing like this. It was advanced, intelligent, and dangerous. "Stay behind me," Leora said softly. "I'll find a way in." Mila nodded, hiding behind a rock, her small drone hovering cautiously. Leora examined the energy patterns, her mind racing. Human brains were capable of solving problems in ways aliens did not anticipate: intuition, creativity, improvisation. And she would need all of it. She took a deep breath and approached the field. Her hands moved over the interface on her portable toolkit, scanning the energy rhythms. The field pulsed in sequences, almost musical in their pattern. Leora listened, memorizing the timing. Then she moved. Quick, precise, a step in sync with the energy pulses. She slipped through a small gap that the field allowed momentarily, barely wide enough for her. Inside, the room was dimly lit, filled with strange machinery that hummed with alien energy. And there in the center was a figure, Commander Kellen. Mila gasped from outside. "Daddy!" Kellen was alive, though weakened. He had been trapped, forced into a stasis-like state by the alien tech. His eyes opened slowly, focusing on Leora and then on Mila, his face lighting with recognition. "Leora," he whispered, weak but conscious. "You're alive," she said, relief flooding her chest. "We're getting you out of here." But the field was not idle. The machinery detected interference and began to adjust, tightening the energy barriers. Time was running out. Leora thought fast. The human mind excelled at improvisation. Alien systems were precise, predictable, but humans could spot flaws, exploit gaps. She whispered instructions to Mila, guiding the drone to interact with control panels outside the containment room. The girl followed perfectly, her tiny fingers moving quickly over the interface, guided by intuition and hope. Together, they worked. Leora manipulated the interior controls while Mila synchronized the drone outside. The energy field flickered, then wavered, giving just enough space for Kellen to step forward. It was a moment of pure human ingenuity, the combined effort of courage, creativity, and stubborn determination. No alien technology, no machine, could anticipate the collaboration between two humans and a clever little drone. Finally, Kellen was free. He stumbled but was caught by Leora, who steadied him. Mila ran forward, hugging her father tightly. "We did it," Leora said, breathless, watching the reunion. Kellen looked around, awe and gratitude mixing on his face. I thought I'd never get out." "You're safe now," Leora said, smiling faintly. "Humans always find a way." Mila's eyes sparkled. "I told you he was alive." The group took a moment to recover, but Leora knew they couldn't stay. The machinery was still active and alien sensors could reactivate at any moment. They needed to leave the planet, and fast. As they retraced their steps, the wind whipping against them, Leora couldn't help but marvel. Humans were remarkable. Clever, resourceful, and unyielding. Even in the face of unknown alien forces, they could adapt, survive, and triumph. And with Kellen safe, with Mila's faith intact, she realized something. Humans weren't just survivors. They were problem solvers, innovators, and heroes in their own right. The Outlands were dangerous, unpredictable, and filled with mysteries. But humans had one thing no alien could replicate: heart. And that heart had just saved a family. The wind howled across the rocky surface of the alien world, whipping dust and small stones into Leora's face as she led the way back toward the landing site. Behind her, Commander Kellen leaned on Mila, who refused to let go of her father's hand. The little girl's grip was firm, protective, yet full of excitement. "We need to move fast," Leora said over the roaring wind. "This planet isn't going to stay quiet forever. Those energy fields, whatever created them, might reactivate or send signals. We can't wait." Mila's drone zipped ahead, scanning for obstacles and potential threats. Its sensors picked up heat signatures moving in the distance, and Leora's stomach tightened. They weren't alone. "Leora," Kellen said weakly, "I think we're being followed." She didn't answer immediately, her eyes narrowing as she studied the readings. The signatures weren't human, or at least not like anything she recognized. These were predators, mechanical, alien, and highly intelligent. The kind designed to hunt and capture intruders. Leora's mind raced. Humans had a unique way of handling danger, combining instinct with improvisation. She could feel it in herself, the quick thoughts forming solutions before the threat fully registered. "Stay close," she instructed, "and don't make sudden movements." The mechanical creatures emerged from the shadows of jagged rocks, their bodies glinting in the dim light. They were unlike any species she had encountered. Sleek, angular, and designed to move quickly over uneven terrain, with glowing sensors scanning for life signs. One misstep and they would attack. "Can the drone distract them?" Mila asked, her small fingers flying over the controls. "Yes," Leora said, "but it won't be enough on its own. We need a plan." The three humans huddled behind a rock formation, quickly whispering their strategy. Kellen, despite his weakness, offered insight. "They respond to patterns. If we create irregular movements, we can confuse them." Leora nodded. "Perfect. We'll use the drone to lure them toward that canyon," she said, pointing to a narrow passage where the terrain would slow their pursuers. "Then we move fast, zigzagging. Humans are unpredictable, so we can outsmart them." The plan was risky, but it relied on what humans did best, thinking creatively under pressure. Leora's pulse quickened as she led the group into position, carefully timing each step. The drone zipped ahead, flashing lights and creating phantom heat signatures. The alien machines followed, calculating and adapting, but not fast enough. "Now!" Leora shouted. They sprinted, zigzagging toward the canyon, each human moving in ways the machines could not anticipate. Mila's laughter rang out, tense but joyous, as her drone guided the predators into traps of uneven ground and sharp rocks. By the time they reached the canyon, the creatures were slowed, their movements awkward in the tight space. Leora used her tools to create a small energy disruption, throwing a pulse that temporarily disabled their sensors. The machines halted, their glowing eyes flickering. Kellen stumbled but was caught by Leora. "You saved me," he whispered, gratitude clear in his voice. "No," Leora replied, "we saved each other, that's what humans do." The HFY moment wasn't lost on Mila. She smiled brightly, feeling the power of courage and teamwork. Humans could survive, adapt, and triumph, no matter the odds. After a tense few minutes, the mechanical predators retreated, scanning the canyon cautiously before moving away. Leora exhaled, her hands trembling slightly from adrenaline. "We're not safe yet, but we've bought some time." Mila ran to her father, her small face glowing with excitement. "See, I told you humans are clever," Kellen chuckled weakly, shaking his head. "Yes, I see that now." He looked at Leora with a newfound respect. "I underestimated you." "Don't," Leora said sharply, but with a faint smile. "Humans are tricky, clever, stubborn. That's what keeps us alive." They spent the next few hours navigating the alien terrain carefully. Every ridge, every crevice held potential danger. Leora led the way, studying the patterns of the mechanical predators and predicting their movements. Kellen rested when needed, and Mila's drone kept them informed of any approaching threats. As night fell, the barren world became eerily quiet. The sky shimmered with faint, alien constellations, painting the landscape in silver and blue. Leora found a small alcove for them to rest, away from the predators' usual paths. Mila curled up beside her father, her eyes heavy but alert. "Do you think they'll come back?" she whispered. "They might," Leora said softly, "but humans have ways of surviving. We're not easy to catch." The little girl smiled, trusting Leora's words. In that moment, Leora realized something profound. Humans weren't just survivors. They were innovators, problem solvers, and fearless explorers. Even a child, with courage and cleverness, could make a difference. The next morning, they resumed their journey, heading toward a distant plateau that Kellen remembered from his limited memory of the alien containment area. The terrain became more treacherous, filled with steep cliffs and narrow paths. Leora led cautiously, but her mind was already planning contingencies. Humans thrived in uncertainty, and she would use every ounce of her skill to keep them alive. Hours into their climb, they encountered another obstacle, a field of alien traps, shimmering with faint energy. Leora studied the patterns, recognizing that the traps were motion-sensitive and activated by heat. Her mind raced, calculating steps, timing, and angles. "We can cross this," she said, "but we have to move carefully. One wrong step and it's over." Mila's drone hovered above, scanning and mapping the energy fields. Using the data, Leora guided them, stepping where the sensors would not detect heat and teaching Mila how to follow precisely. Kellen, though exhausted, mimicked her movements, trusting her judgment. Step by step, they crossed the field. The energy pulses flickered and hissed, but humans' unpredictability and intuition allowed them to slip through unscathed. Leora couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humans had a way of adapting that no machine could fully anticipate. Finally, they reached the plateau, and there it was, the remains of the alien containment facility, partially buried in rock and dust. The structure was massive, its walls covered in glowing alien symbols. It seemed abandoned, yet alive in some strange way, as though it were waiting. "This is it," Kellen said, voice weak but determined. "This is where they kept me." Mila's eyes sparkled. "We'll get you out completely this time, Daddy." Leora studied the building, noting weak points in the alien architecture. "We'll need to be careful," she said. "It's old but dangerous. Alien tech doesn't rust, it adapts. We'll move slowly and strategically." As they approached the facility, the ground trembled slightly beneath their feet. The alien systems were not entirely offline. They were dormant, but responsive. Leora knew instinctively that any rash movement could trigger defenses. She looked at Mila. "You and the drone stay close. Watch for sensors. I'll handle the entry points." The little girl nodded, trusting Leora completely. Leora's respect for human courage deepened with every step. Humans had a unique mix of fear, bravery, and ingenuity that allowed them to face impossible odds and succeed. Carefully, Leora manipulated the alien barriers, using tools and clever adjustments to bypass the energy fields. The hum of the alien tech filled the air, but her calm focus kept them safe. Finally, they entered the inner chamber, the heart of the facility. Inside, remnants of alien machinery hummed faintly. Panels displayed faint holographic patterns, and the air smelled of metal and energy. Kellen, now fully alert, looked around. "I never thought I'd see this again," he murmured. Leora nodded. "Humans have a way of finding what's lost," she said, "even against things that seem impossible." Mila ran ahead, her laughter echoing lightly. "We did it, Daddy. We're here together." Leora followed, keeping a careful eye on the surroundings. She knew the mission wasn't over. They still had to leave this planet safely. But for the first time, she allowed herself a small moment of satisfaction. Humans had done what no alien technology could prevent. They had survived, outsmarted, and triumphed through courage, creativity, and collaboration. The HFY truth was clear. Humans were remarkable. And this little girl, stubborn and hopeful, had reminded Leora of something she had almost forgotten. Humans didn't just survive. They conquered challenges that others thought impossible. And the adventure was far from over. The alien facility hummed with a low, almost musical vibration, as if it were alive and watching their every move. Leora crouched behind a metallic wall, scanning the corridor ahead. Commander Kellen, now steady on his feet, followed closely, while Mila's small drone hovered nearby, its lights blinking softly. "This is it," Leora whispered. "The last section. We need to be precise. One wrong step and the system could reactivate." Mila's eyes were wide with determination. "We can do it. Right, Daddy?" Kellen gave her a small nod. "Yes, but listen carefully to Leora. She knows what we're up against." The inner chamber was unlike anything Leora had ever seen. Glowing panels lined the walls, pulsing in strange rhythms. Energy tendrils snaked across the floor, forming barriers that shifted unpredictably. Alien machinery clicked and whirred, scanning for intruders. This was no ordinary prison. It was a fortress, designed to trap and confuse any who entered. Leora studied the patterns carefully. Humans had an advantage over machines, intuition and unpredictability. While alien systems calculated and followed logic, humans could improvise, adapt, and exploit imperfections. This would be their key. "Follow my lead," she said, her voice firm. "Mila, keep the drone ready to disable sensors if needed. Kellen, stay close." Step by step, they moved forward. The energy tendrils pulsed as if alive, but Leora timed their movements, slipping between the waves. Mila's drone darted ahead, scanning for hidden traps and signaling warnings. Every step required concentration, courage, and trust. Suddenly, a deep hum echoed through the chamber. Panels along the walls shifted, forming new barriers. The system was responding to their presence. Leora froze, quickly analyzing the changes. The aliens had anticipated intruders, but they could not predict human improvisation. "Now," Leora shouted. She dashed forward, using the shadows and flickering lights to mask her movement. The energy tendrils moved just slightly too slow, and she slipped through. Kellen followed, careful but determined. Mila's drone buzzed overhead, projecting false signals that confused the system temporarily. The humans moved as one unit, their coordination flawless despite the tension. It was human ingenuity in action, courage, cleverness, and unpredictability. The alien system was powerful, but it could not match the flexibility of living minds working together. They reached the inner core of the facility, a large chamber filled with strange machinery. And there, suspended in a faint blue stasis field, was another human, one of the explorers who had been trapped long before Kellen. Leora felt a pang of sympathy. Humans were resilient, but the odds against survival here were staggering. "We have to free them," Leora said, her voice resolute. "But we need to do it carefully." Mila nodded. "The drone can help." With precise coordination, they positioned the drone near the control panels. Its tiny manipulators moved with astonishing accuracy, pressing sequences and scanning for weak points. Leora directed Kellen to assist, using human intuition to identify where the alien logic had gaps. Step by step, the stasis field began to flicker, weakening with every careful adjustment. The chamber shook suddenly, a warning that the alien system was activating defensive protocols. Leora's heart raced. One more misstep and the machinery could lock down again, or worse. "Almost there," she muttered. "Hold steady." Finally, with a faint hiss, the stasis field collapsed. The trapped explorer collapsed into Kellen's arms, coughing but alive. Relief flooded the chamber. Humans had done the impossible, outsmarted an alien system that should have been unbeatable. Mila ran forward, hugging both her father and the new explorer. "We did it!" she exclaimed, tears of joy in her eyes. Kellen looked at Leora, gratitude and awe in his expression. "I don't know how you did it, but you saved all of us." Leora shook her head, smiling faintly. "Humans always find a way. That's what we do. We survive, adapt, and solve problems no one else can." But there was no time to celebrate. The facility had detected their presence. Energy tendrils started shifting violently, creating new barriers. Warning lights flashed. They needed to leave now. "Back to the exit," Leora ordered. "Stay calm and follow me. Trust your instincts." The return was far more dangerous than their entry. The alien system was fully alert, responding to every movement. Energy fields flared, forcing them to dodge and weave through the corridor. Mila's drone worked tirelessly, projecting signals to confuse the machinery and buying precious seconds. "Keep moving," Leora shouted, pushing Kellen and the rescued explorer ahead. The machinery lunged, mechanical arms extending to block their path. Leora ducked and rolled, grabbing a control panel and redirecting energy pulses. Sparks flew as she manipulated the system with quick, precise movements. Humans were unpredictable. Machines could calculate logic, but they couldn't predict heart, courage, and creativity. Finally, they reached the last barrier. Leora analyzed it quickly. It was a timing problem. The energy field pulsed in a pattern, predictable if watched closely. Using her agility and intuition, she led the group through a narrow gap, with Mila's drone flickering in the shadows to distract sensors. They emerged from the facility, gasping for breath. Outside, the alien world stretched wide and silent, the hum of the machinery fading as if defeated. For a moment, they just stood there, soaking in their victory. "We did it," Kellen said, voice filled with awe. "I never thought I'd see the light again." Mila hugged her father tightly. "We're together again." Leora stepped back, allowing them their moment. She felt a deep satisfaction not for herself but for the power of human courage and ingenuity. Humans weren't just survivors, they were heroes in their own right. As they made their way back to the ship, the sun began to rise over the rocky horizon. The light glinted off the alien machinery, now dormant, reminding them of the challenges they had overcome. "Humans always find a way," Leora said softly, more to herself than anyone else. "No matter the odds." Kellen looked at her, a smile of admiration on his face. "You're extraordinary, Leora. I don't know how to thank you." "You don't need to," she replied. "Just keep living, keep surviving, and keep inspiring the next generation." Mila grinned, holding her father's hand tightly. "I want to be like you someday." Leora laughed softly, a rare, warm sound. Humans were stubborn, clever, and full of heart. And seeing the little girl's determination reminded her of something she had almost forgotten. Hope was as powerful as any weapon. The trio climbed aboard the ship, with Mila guiding her father to a seat. Leora took the pilot's chair, checking the systems and preparing for departure. The journey back would be long and dangerous, but for now they were free. As the engines hummed to life, lifting the ship from the alien surface, Leora felt a sense of pride. Humans had faced an impossible challenge and emerged victorious, not through brute strength, but through courage, intelligence, and collaboration. And for the first time in years, she realized she wasn't just passing through. She was part of something bigger. A mission that reminded her why humans could never be underestimated. The alien world receded beneath them, but the lessons they carried would not. Bravery, creativity, and heart were the ultimate strengths of humanity, qualities no alien machine could replicate. Mila's voice cut through Leora's thoughts. "Where to next?" Leora smiled, looking at the stars stretching endlessly ahead. "Wherever humans are needed," she said. "Wherever the impossible awaits, humans always find a way." And with that, the ship shot into the vast unknown, carrying a little girl, her father, and a reminder that humanity, stubborn, clever, and brave, could face anything. The Outlands had tested them, but humans had triumphed. And the adventure was far from over. The ship glided silently through the stars, leaving the Outlands far behind. Outside, streaks of light from distant suns raced past, a reminder of the vast, unpredictable universe. Leora Vance sat in the pilot's chair, her hands steady on the controls, but her mind was far from the routine of flying. Beside her, Commander Kellen rested, still weak from his long confinement but alive. Mila sat close, her small fingers gripping her father's hand tightly. The little girl's eyes sparkled with excitement but also with relief. She had her father back, and she had witnessed something incredible. Humans could overcome even the most impossible odds. Leora studied them silently, a faint smile on her face. For years she had flown alone, drifting from planet to planet, mission to mission, never staying anywhere long enough to care. But now, with these two humans beside her, she realized something she hadn't in a long time. Connection, purpose, and hope were just as vital as survival. Kellen stirred, looking at Leora with gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you, Leora. You risked yourself for a stranger." Leora shook her head, her expression calm but firm. "You're not a stranger anymore. Humans help each other, that's what we do. Courage, intelligence, and stubbornness, those are the things that define us. I just reminded you of them." Mila grinned. "See? I told you humans are amazing." Kellen chuckled softly, leaning back in his seat. "Yes, you've proven it. Not just you, Leora, but all of us together. Leora's mind wandered to the outlands, the dangerous cliffs, the alien machinery, the mechanical predators. Every step they had taken had required courage, intelligence, and trust. Humans had triumphed not because they were stronger than the alien systems, but because they were unpredictable, clever, and relentless. The journey home was long. They passed through asteroid fields, dodged unstable meteor storms, and navigated nebulae that interfered with sensors. Leora piloted the ship expertly, but she allowed herself small moments of reflection. Humans didn't just survive challenges, they adapted, improvised, and used every advantage they had. And that was why they were special. Mila busied herself with the drone, teaching it new tricks as they traveled. Look, Daddy, it can map our route through the nebula now. Kellen smiled at his daughter, amazed by her confidence and ingenuity. Your father would be proud of you, he said softly. Mila tilted her head, a thoughtful expression on her small face. I am proud of us too. We did it together. Leora felt a warmth in her chest. Humans were remarkable in more ways than one. Courage, creativity, intelligence, and compassion. These were the traits that had carried them through the outlands. And now, they were stronger because they had shared the experience. After several days of travel, they approached a familiar system, a cluster of inhabited planets where Kellen's family and colleagues might finally hear of his return. The planet below was green and blue, full of life, contrasting sharply with the barren, dangerous world they had left behind. Leora guided the ship through the atmosphere, careful but precise. As they descended toward the city, she could see people moving below, unaware of the adventure unfolding above them. To Leora, it was a reminder that the universe was full of challenges waiting to be faced, but also full of moments of calm and hope. Mila's voice was almost singing with excitement. We're home, Daddy, we're finally home, Kellen smiled, squeezing her hand. Yes, Mila, and it's all thanks to you and Leora. The landing was smooth, and the trio exited the ship to be greeted by curious onlookers. Kellen's colleagues rushed forward, astonished to see him alive. He was embraced, celebrated, and questioned in rapid succession. Yet through it all, Leora stayed quiet, observing, her eyes scanning for any remaining danger. Humans were always cautious, even in victory. Mila tugged at her sleeve. Can we tell them about the outlands? About how humans can do amazing things? Leora smiled faintly. We can. But remember, kid, the lesson isn't just about danger or adventure. It's about courage, cleverness, and heart. Humans survive because they never give up, because they work together, and because they use their minds and their instincts. Kellen nodded, proud of his daughter and of Leora. And that's a lesson worth sharing. Days passed, and Leora helped Kellen reintegrate into his life, guiding him and Mila as they adjusted to the safety and routines of civilization. But even as they settled, Leora knew she couldn't stay. She had her own path, her own wandering to do. Yet, something had changed. She was no longer just passing through, she was part of something bigger. Mila, however, was adamant. You can't leave yet, we need you. Leora knelt beside her, placing a hand gently on the girl's shoulder. I will always be around, kid. Humans don't just abandon each other. But I can't stay in one place. I have to keep moving, discovering new places, helping others when I can. Mila's eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and admiration. Promise you'll come back, Leora smiled. I promise I'll always return when you need me. Humans never truly leave those they care about. That night, as the city lights twinkled below and the stars sparkled above, Leora sat alone for a moment, reflecting on the journey. The outlands had tested them, pushed them to the limits, and yet humans had triumphed. Not through raw power, but through courage, ingenuity, and heart. She thought of the little girl who refused to give up hope, the father who survived against all odds, and the human spirit that had carried them through danger. And she realized something important. Humans were extraordinary not because of strength or numbers, but because they refused to surrender to fear or impossibility. The next morning, Leora prepared to leave, but this time it was different. She had witnessed human courage firsthand, seen how even the smallest individuals could change the course of events. She had a renewed sense of purpose, a reminder that humans were capable of extraordinary things. Kellen and Mila waved as her ship lifted off. "Come back soon," Mila shouted, her voice full of hope and excitement. Leora smiled, returning the wave. "I will, kid. Humans always find a way." As she soared into the stars, Leora reflected on the lessons of the outlands. Humans were more than survivors. They were explorers, problem solvers, heroes in their own right. Their creativity, intelligence, and stubbornness allowed them to face the impossible and often to triumph. The universe stretched endlessly ahead, full of mysteries and dangers. But Leora knew one thing with certainty. Wherever humans went, they left a mark. They adapted, they inspired, and they overcame. And she would continue to do the same, traveling to the farthest reaches of space, helping those in need, and proving again and again that humans were capable of extraordinary things. The stars gleamed around her, infinite and inviting. Leora felt the thrill of the unknown once more, but now with something new, a sense of connection, purpose, and hope. She was still a wanderer, but no longer alone. The Outlands had shown her that humans, stubborn, clever, and brave, could face anything. And as she navigated her ship toward the next adventure, she carried with her the most important truth of all. Humans always find a way. The galaxy awaited, full of challenges, mysteries, and opportunities. And Leora, with the knowledge of human ingenuity and courage, was ready for whatever came next. Humans had triumphed, humans had survived, and humans would continue to do so. And Leora, the wanderer who had only intended to pass through, had found a purpose she had never known: to witness, to protect, and to inspire the enduring spirit of humanity. The stars stretched endlessly before her, but Leora no longer felt alone. She carried with her the proof that humans, even the smallest among them, could overcome the greatest obstacles. The adventure had ended, but the story of humanity, its courage, its ingenuity, and its heart would continue forever. And somewhere in the stars beyond, new challenges awaited. But one thing was certain: humans, with all their flaws and brilliance, would always find a way.